Hello, YouTube world. I just wanted to shoot a quick video on the NBA playoffs. And, those of us that follow this just a little bit and follow the Masonic and the satanic world, what's going on, it's really clear these playoffs are rigged and that most of professional sports is rigged these days. And I just wanted to get into a little bit talking about the Cleveland Toronto series. And this series concluded a little over a week ago. This was from Sunday, 9 days ago. I meant to get out this video earlier, but, got really busy. So Cleveland won this series in a sweep 4-0 for those that haven't been following this. So I've not been watching much of the playoffs, but I happened to have the TV on briefly on this day and caught it during a timeout, and it really caught my attention what was on the screen, so I photographed this, and I'll show you this picture. And what really jumped out to me to start with is, so this is Kyle Lowry. He is arguably Toronto's best player. If not their best player, definitely their second best player, next to DeMar DeRozan. And what I noticed was he's wearing all black here. And Lowry was injured in game 2 of this series. The most important, arguably their best player, and he's injured in game 2. He didn't take the court or play a minute in game 3 or 4. Didn't even try to play. So immediately I thought that was real interesting. I thought it was very sketchy, the injury in game 2. And then when he didn't lace him up and even attempt to play in 3 and 4, that really had me feeling this was a fake injury. So as we see here, he's wearing all black, sitting on the bench here. And where do you see people wearing all black? Well, we see all black suits at funerals, obviously. And to me, what this kind of signifies is him wearing the all black. It symbolizes the death of Toronto's season. Then, more importantly, I believe this symbolizes the blood sacrifices and the deaths that occur during the NBA playoffs. And if you follow the NBA playoffs, April, May, June, you start to notice that there are an unusually high amount of celebrity deaths that happen during the NBA playoffs. And a lot of times they're very suspicious deaths, oftentimes suicides, and this year's no different. Just off the top of my head, recently, the actor from Miracle, I think his name was Mike Mantanato. He was only 35 years old. He was found dead in a car, and it was called a suicide. Very bizarre, sketchy, very suspect. Eddie Murphy's brother, Charlie Murphy, who those of us that know Chappelle's Show, he just recently died. Another bizarre death. Isaiah Thomas, the Celtics star guard, and the Celtics, by the way, just made the Eastern Conference Finals to play these Cavaliers. His sister, who was just 22, was found dead in a car accident. This was back end of April, I believe, and this is particularly interesting because Thomas, who's one of the best players in the league, I think he averages like at least 25 points a game. It's more than that. He's one of the best players in the league, and his contract is going to be up at the end of next year. So it's real interesting the timing of this, because a lot of times these star players, before they sign a big contract or get a big deal with the contractor endorsements, will oftentimes see a family member of theirs that dies. And some of the time these are blood sacrifices. I think a good amount of time it's a blood sacrifice, because oftentimes in this world, if you're an actor, an athlete, a big celebrity, and you're making those hundreds of millions of dollars, you don't do so without paying for it, and really joining the club, and selling your soul to Lucifer. So anyhow, we had the all black suit here with Kyle Lowry, and I think this is symbolic of him being a mock sacrifice for this series. And if you look, his eyes look kind of dazed, and maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but he almost has kind of a guilty, unhappy look on his face. I mean, my feeling is, if I had to guess, I think this guy's probably in on it. I think that this was a faked injury. He knew it's a fake, and that he sat out games 3 and 4, and I don't know, maybe he wasn't part of the plan, but maybe someone threatened him. But this month he sat out games 3 and 4, and it'd be hard to think that if you're really a great competitor, a professional athlete, and you more than anything want to win the championship, that you wouldn't, with a sprained ankle, you wouldn't even attempt to go out there and play. He didn't go out there for 1 minute in either game 3 or 4. I mean, I'm sorry. It's really sketchy and suspect. I mean, you think if you had a broken toe, a broken bone, even if you had trouble playing, you'd at least go out there and try. And what makes this real interesting is Kyle Lowry just happens to be in a contract year. His contract is up this summer. He's a free agent. And a lot of the experts are saying he's going to get a $200 million deal, that he's going to probably sign a $200 million contract this summer. So it's really interesting timing, this suspect injury, him sitting out the last 2 games, it's interesting. And next to the all-black suit, you'll notice, if you look at the score, you'll see Toronto 93, and you'll see Toronto is in red, the number 93. And why this is interesting is the 93 is one of the most prominent numbers in the Masonic Satanic world. Think of 9/11 Flight 93 is what we're told, the plane that ran into the World Trade Center. Think of the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. And this is a number that is used for sacrifice and death in the Masonic world. And last year in the NBA Finals, Cleveland won Game 7, and they scored 93 points. And I was watching that game with my family, and with about 2.5 minutes left, Cleveland had, I think it was like 87 points. And I told my family, I said, watch, Cleveland's going to win. They're going to land on 93. And the game ended that way. And my family's like, wow, how'd you know that? And I said, well, I'm no psychic. I'm no prognosticator. I'm not that smart of a guy. It was just that blatantly obvious. That is how blatantly obvious this rigging is these days. Cleveland was down 3-1 in that NBA Finals last year, and everybody that follows it and pays attention to the numbers and the Masonic and the Satanic world really knew that Cleveland was going to come back and win that series in 7. And to tell you how pathetically rigged this stuff is, last year in the Western Conference Finals, Golden State was trailing Oklahoma City 3-1. Tim Donaghy is a former NBA official, and he was indicted and did jail time for throwing games. He was making calls to rig games, taking money, and purposely rigging games. And Golden State was down 3-1. And he said they would come back in the series. He said, no way will Oklahoma City win to close that Game 5. He said, Golden State's going to win this game and come back in the series. So that's pretty pathetic when you've got an official that was indicted for rigging games now saying publicly, yeah, these games are still rigged. So the black suit, the 93, not sure if you can see the 93 there, trying to get in focus for you. And then those of you at home, something else I noticed, this may be tougher to see, is this gold chain Larry has on. You'll see here it's the letter K for his first name, Kyle. And I found that interesting because K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. And this shot here, this photograph, was during a timeout. And right after this timeout, an inbound pass took place. It went to Kyrie Irving for the Cavs. He immediately hit a 3-point jump shot. And the announcer, Mike Breen, said, Kyrie the Killer. And I thought, that's interesting. Kyrie, that's a K. Killer, that's a K. The 11th letter of the alphabet. So he had a K here. Kyrie, the Killer, just boom, boom, boom like that. 11th letter of the alphabet. 11 plus 11 plus 11. That's 33. 33 is probably the most prominent Freemason number for a number of reasons. Jesus Christ died on the cross at 33. Their God is Lucifer. So they like to use that number for one reason, to mock Jesus Christ, that 33 number. So, I found that really interesting. Is the black suit, the 93, the K, then the KKK. It really seemed to me that this whole injury by Kyle Lowry, that this was all faked, it was all a sham, completely fictitious, and he willingly sat out game 3 and 4, and that this series was rigged. So, anyone, I didn't watch a lot of NBA this year, a little bit, and anyone that knows the NBA has seen this year that Cleveland is a very mediocre team this year compared to, in years past, that they don't really seem like a championship caliber team. Before the season started, I thought that Cleveland and Golden State would play in the NBA Finals for the third straight year, just simply because I thought it would be rigged that way again. Cleveland won the rigged NBA title last year. And, I thought there might be some funny things happening in these playoffs because Cleveland is not very good. They're a bad defensive team. Anybody who really watches the NBA knows this. They lost, I think, 6 out of their last 11 games, and they really struggled defensively all year. So it's funny now in the playoffs, they swept the first series 4-0, and they swept this semifinal series 4-0. They've yet to lose, so now suddenly Cleveland, who's been very mediocre all season, is just this well-oiled machine in the playoffs. So, kind of interesting. Seems pretty sketchy to me. So, just really wanted to point out, this seemed interesting to me, that, kind of an evidence point that this Cleveland-Toronto series was rigged. These playoffs, they were rigged last year. I feel very strongly they're rigged this year, that we're going to see Cleveland, Golden State again. A lot of people are saying Cleveland, Boston, Cleveland win in 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll have to see. But, pay attention for these blood sacrifices during the NBA playoffs. We see this each year in April, May, and June. And Kyle Lowry wearing the black, I think this was a mock sacrifice, that he was the mock sacrifice for this series. So we'll see what happens. I really believe that most all of pro sports and even a good part of college sports is rigged by these Freemasons, these wealthy elitists around the world. So anybody else that notices these types of things in sports, movies, television, I just encourage you to put it out there. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. But there's too much of it happening for it to just merely be coincidence. So we'll see what happens with the rest of the NBA playoffs. I thank you for watching. I want to give all the glory to God the Father and the Lord Jesus Christ.